Bristol-born but Australian-raised John Kelly. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning, Patricia.
You're welcome to the programme. And now, are you permanently based down in West Cork?
I am down here at Union Hall.
A beautiful spot, great spot. Now, take me back. When did you first create the cow up a tree, and what was your inspiration for it?
This sculpture was created in 1999 in Paris at the Coubertin Foundry. It was for an exhibition of 50 sculptures to mark the millennium from around the world, and it was put on the Champs-Élysées late in 1999. However, the history of it comes from Australia, where I grew up, and that's to do with a World War II camouflage scheme where a very famous Australian artist had a job of disguising grass airfields from Japanese airmen, and he did that by making paper mache cows and then moving them around the airfield. And as he said, he thought the authorities had underestimated the eyesight of Japanese airmen. But combined with that was also, in Australia, often we have quite dramatic floods, as you do here.
Yeah.
But in Australia, sometimes they're so dramatic that you have cattle caught up in trees, and there's some well-documented photographs on the web if people want to look. Or even last year in Brisbane, there was photographs of cattle standing on roofs. So those floods often dissipate quite quickly, leaving the animals stranded. So it's a kind of combination of those two historical elements, bringing that together. That's kind of how it arrived, and
it created huge reaction, didn't it, when in Paris in 1999 when it was first exhibited?
Absolutely. I had some very famous artists coming up to me, declaring that I'd stolen the show. But that was, as a young artist, that was quite exciting and quite important to me. But it gained worldwide coverage in the media.
And the cow has travelled, even though there's one permanently in Melbourne, but this cow has travelled to other cities.
After the exhibition in Paris on the Champs-Élysées, the Docklands Consortium in Melbourne bought it, and it became the first sculpture in an urban regeneration program there that has seen the Docklands grow from being quite a wasteland, a bit like what we've got here in Cork, an industrial wasteland, into almost another mini city within a city. And then after that, we were fortunate enough to sell one to a private collector, a very supportive private collector. And after that, my wife and I, we created one ourselves. And that has gone on exhibition in places such as the Mamac in France, the Hague during their sculpture festival, and also at the Glastonbury Arts Festival.
Yeah, because the one that's been erected now in Cork City, it's just hired, isn't it, for about 3 months or something?
Well, it's on loan to the council, I guess you'd say, for 3 months. It's just an agreement that we have that they paid for the installation and the transportation, and it's going to be on Emmett Place at this stage for 3 months.
Have you been up to Emmett Place to take a look at your cow up a tree?
I was there at the installation.
That must be a great buzz.
And it is one of the more exciting aspects of being an artist is that, normally what I love about this sculpture is the way that it does engage the public. And, if I go back to the Champs-Élysées, my wife and I used to sit next to it on the bench there and watch people interact with it to the point, they'd be knocking on the tree to see if it's real, or we even had the dogs of Paris, next to it. So it takes art, I guess. Most of the time when I create art, it's shown in galleries, and it's kind of a bit removed from direct participation. But this sculpture engages the public quite directly, and I think that's very exciting. And even on Saturday morning there, you had all sorts of reactions to it, from people who loved it to people who absolutely hated it. So, it's sort of, but that's what's good about it.
And does that not bother you when there's somebody who hates what you've done as an artist?
Well, you try to listen to what they're saying and where they're coming from, and often you find that it's not very rational. It's not based on very rational reactions. It's either someone's, they're talking about the expense of it, or that it's, that it's a waste of money. But that doesn't really hold water as an argument, I don't think.
Well, Caroline, one of our listeners, was on to say that her 6-year-old son walked past it on Monday. She said it was just fantastic to see her little 6-year-old's reaction to it, and she thought, if for no other reason, that's made it worthwhile, because there has been some criticism of the €20,000, and I know one of the city councillors was saying that they should be supporting a local artist.
Well, I've been living in Ireland for the last 8 years. I'd like to think that I am a local artist.
And your dad's from Cork, isn't he?
Oh, well, yeah. He was born up in Lismore, near Mallow, just around Kenturk there. And, unfortunately, he had to leave Ireland due to economic circumstances, and that's how we found ourselves out in Australia. However, so I do have a strong connection, and I think in a world where we are a global economy and people move quite regularly, I would like to think that I'm as local. I think that councillor that was suggesting that artists from the National Sculpture Factory should be given these opportunities, but. Maybe I'll just suggest to him that I am a member of the National.
Did you grow up with stories about Lismore and Kanturk from your dad, and stories about Cork? Did he talk about it?
Absolutely. Cork was very much something a place I knew about from childhood, and it was quite a mysterious place, a long way away. And back in those days,
there was no hope of coming home on holidays or anything.
Absolutely, that was it. But it was a very mysterious place, and I have to say, even having lived here for 8 years, it's still quite a mystery. But it's lovely, I think, for me as an artist to have a cow up a tree, a very important sculpture for me, both in Melbourne and Cork at the same time, because even though it's about Australian history. It's also about my own artistic history now, and that connects two places that I have very strong connections with.
Well put, well put. And is it true that your mother entered a Win-A-Wish competition on the side of a milk carton that got you into art school? That is just one fantastic story. Tell me about that.
Well, my mother Margaret, there were 7 children in our family, and I got into art school back in 1982. There was a rather severe recession in Australia at that time, and she came to me at one stage and just said, "Look, it's great you got into art school, but unfortunately we can't afford to send you to school, send you to that school." And then it was just a few days later, she received a phone call from our neighbour, or the neighbour came across to say he'd received a phone call from a radio station, and that the competition that she'd entered, which was a Win-A-Wish competition, that she'd actually won it, and that wish, which she'd written on the milk carton, was, her wish was to send me to art school, and that was granted. So, it's an incredibly fortunate, but also she was very clever in the sense that she didn't cut the coupon out. She actually wrapped the whole milk carton up, empty, I might add, but she wrapped it in Christmas paper and sent it in.
Wow.
So she was pretty creative as well. Maybe that's where I get it from.
That's terrific. That is terrific. So what are you up to at the moment? Are you painting, or are you doing sculptures, or are you getting inspiration from West Cork?
Well, absolutely. Always getting inspiration from West Cork. Well, I'm just off to Sweden. I have a major sculpture in Sweden, which I made here in Cork at CSNR down at the Tivoli Docks with Tony Herbert there. He was great assistance in with that sculpture. That sculpture is just finishing at the Gothenburg Biennale, and that'll be on its way back probably in the next couple of weeks. So I'm just heading over there to pack that one up. And then I'm hoping to have a little bit of a break.
All right, you've been busy. That is the main thing. Listen, it was a real pleasure to talk to you, John, and we hope that you get a lot of very positive reaction to your cow up a tree. But thanks a million for joining us on the programme today.
That's my pleasure.
Thanks for that. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. A lovely man. That is John Kelly, the creator of Cow Up a Tree. 1850.